It's hard.
We'll have a nice conversation.
It's hard for me to sit down and say, like, leaving Jake for Phil might have been the worst volleyball decision of my career.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
Even though
for 2 years we were the best team in the world.
You and Phil were damn good. I feel like it's like underappreciated too how good you and Phil were too.
I think a little bit is because we didn't win as many tournaments on the AVP as maybe we expected.
Yeah.
That is a crazy thing to hear. Like,
yeah.
The worst decision was to leave Jake.
Leaving Jake for Phil, I think, was the worst volleyball decision of my career. It's crazy. It's hard to say. It's hard to think, but it might be true. Yeah. I think it might be true. So I think Jake and I would have continued to play and get better, and that was right after we won the World Tour. Mm-hmm. It was that off season.
Right.
Like, we had just won the World Tour. We go over. We won Santa Barbara, and right after we won Santa Barbara was when I called him and let him know. Like, I had already talked to Phil maybe a month prior to that.
Right.
And we were actually on a plane going somewhere, and Phil and I were on the same flight. And it was just like, what do you want to do? You want to play next year? I was like, yeah.
Pretty good.
It was hard. It's like if your boss comes up to you and asks you, hey, Travis, do you want a raise?
Yeah,
it's
exactly
like,
right.
No.
I'm good where I'm at. It's kind of one of those things. Like, let alone from prize money, but also like sponsor money kind of went way up too. So that was...
Yeah, that's true. Got Red Bull.
Yeah, Red Bull and Under Armour and a couple others, like the Smart Car. Those years, like, kind of basically through Phil.
What would you tell your young self if you could go back? You know,
I would
without
probably
telling exactly what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, I'd probably do it again. And then, Phil and I just had a few injuries. He had two. He had a
really bad timing.
Torn oblique, and then at the end of the year, that was at the beginning of the year, and then at the end of the year, my back went out.
Oh, yeah.
And then, no, his was at the end of the year.
Whatever it was.
And then the
of,
beginning of 2015, the first tournament of 2015. So we go and play New Orleans. Did you play New Orleans?
No,
Were you guys playing that?
Because everyone was
You went straight to Moscow,
That
right?
was my very first qualifier I've ever played.
That
so
one was?
I know how bad the weather was.
Yeah, so we played there, and everything was delayed because weather-wise, I think we took one whole day off maybe from the tournament. Anyway, it was real late. Everything was running way behind. So we ended up playing Jake and Casey in the finals, and all four of us were on the same flight to Moscow for the first Olympic qualifying event, Grand Slam, big tournament. So we play in the finals, and we kind of like, as soon as that was over, we rushed out. We had a police escort to the airport, get on the plane, fly, land in Moscow. Not the next day, but the day after we had to start playing. So the next day we had to get out, like practice a little bit, move around, get it going. And then I think it was our second match. Phil went up for a block. Ball gets, I think he touched it, and it was like just behind him, and he turned and laid out like that and tore his ab.
Yeah.
So it was like, one was his oblique, and then one was his ab. And
that was hard to watch. I was there watching that one.
You were watching that one?
Yeah, that match was hard. I was like standing there like, why are you guys still playing?
Yeah, I think probably keep playing. It's just probably
balls.
like keep.
You were like double blocking. It was fun watching you because you were doing what you usually just flying everywhere and kicking balls and.
That was a good kick on that one.
Well, once you realize like, all right.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you guys almost won the match.
Yeah, well,
like,
we won.
With Phil just barely trying to move and Rosie just doing everything. You won a set, right?
We went 3.
You forced it to 3, and then like at the end it got away from you guys.
It was like 14-8 or something.
Yeah, so Phil passes the ball, and Rosie, instead of setting, he just punts it. But it went straight up and landed. It was like a good set, right?
I think.
Or it didn't land. It was like an amazing.
I don't know, but I was like, I figured if I like punt it after the whistle, and the game's over, I'm going to get a red card and I'm probably going to get fined. But if I punt it during play, then I should be good.
And you kept it in the court. I remember you punted it straight up to where, like, and this is off a pass. It's not easy to do.
Yeah.
To where it, like, landed back in the court.
So we were playing a German team, Stefan Windschief and Alex Wackenhorst.
Oh, yeah.
And so when I think Stefan served Phil, and as I was going up, I was like, Alex, watch out. Because Alex is up there. I didn't want to, like, toe it straight into his face or something. That would have been, because then he probably just would have picked me up and body slammed me.
Yeah, he's a big dude. Big boy.
But, so that was a rough one. I mean, injuries are definitely a big
I mean, you mentioned
thing that
the
kind of hurt.
Lambo thing. The tough thing about it, like, Lambo obviously would have had a really good shot at competing for that spot when you get against you guys. For sure. But, like, the tough thing about injuries and, like, the Olympics is people only remember who goes. Yeah. You know, they don't know the stories behind it and how much goes into it. And everyone that doesn't get to go has to live with that. And you can live your life trying to tell everybody, but there's no sense in that, right? You just have to kind of swallow it and be like, that's how, like, gnarly this whole Olympic thing is, because in our sport, it is a one-off. Like, that's the label you want to get sponsors, to get to just have that for the rest of your life, right? It's on your resume. Even for getting a job for anything, like, they want to hire you because you have that label. Yeah. And that's, I mean, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was one of those, like, things. I think that was a reason when Phil got healthy again, we played one tournament and we got a 9th. But we hadn't practiced or anything. I was on the road traveling around with Stafford for a little bit because I was already out on the road in Russia.
Right. Oh, yeah,
he flew home after that, right. So I went to, like, Norway and Croatia and some of the others. And I gave my spot up in the World Champs because we're the number 1 seed for the World Champs. And I gave my spot up to Doherty and Mayer.
That's right.
And I was going to play that with whoever. I could have played it with Doherty, I could have played it with Stafford, I could have played it with whoever, but Phil was just able to kind of get back. So I went back, and it was just really passing. And it wasn't like full practice. Like it, I probably should have stayed so he can kind of go through that. And then as he's really ready, then we could get going. But we come back, we had one tournament, and of course Nick and Theo did well again. So they jumped. That was in Japan.
They got fourth World Champs too.
They did. That's right. So World Champs, and then Japan they got like 5th and 9th.
To go just keep it mellow, rest, and
they go and get a 4th. So what happened was our gap became like so big. You know, it was daunting to kind of look at. Even though if we just like play, we're gonna be right there or like close to it. We still have basically a year to play all these events. And
the way you guys were playing on the World Tour. And then knowing how Aiden and I did after, like, you just would have had to stay on par of your course to
but I think in Phil's mind, like, you know, because it was Jake and Casey, and then it was Nick and Theo, and then maybe the third team was maybe you guys at the time.
I think we were still. I guess we were right there with Nick and Theo. I forget where.
But maybe overall points, but I think Olympic points, I think they had a gap. I think they had a little bit of a gap on you at the time. But it was still early. It was like maybe more. Maybe it was like 7, 8 tournaments in already. So when he looked at that, he's like, well, if I play with Nick, who's Phil's like best friend, then it takes this gap off, and now you only have to catch up to here. And Nick, you know, no argument whatsoever. He's a great player, and a lot of people can probably win with Phil when Phil's playing well. So it's like, you know, they're good friends. They came on the tour together. It could have been their last chance to maybe make an Olympic run. Still maybe. I don't know what their plans are.
They said now that they're going for it. As of now, I know that was like a question.
Yeah.